Happy Monday, everyone, and happy President's Day for anybody who happens to be off today from work. I know not everybody is, so if you're not, then I apologize. Do not mean to rub it in any way, but either way, no matter whether you're working or not, I hope that you are enjoying the day. You may notice we're posting this video a little bit later than normal. That's because my day did start off really well today. I'm very excited to share that I had my exam this morning for my next level of coaching certification, and I passed. Yay! So I am officially, well, I should say unofficially because I don't have my actual certification in hand, but that was the last step for me to get my associate certified coach certification through the International Coaching Federation. And it's something I've been working on for a very long time. So I'm very, very excited about that. And so yeah, that's why this is a little bit later. Did that, had a nice lunch, came back, and jumping right back into this before I go enjoy the rest of my day with a book to celebrate and relax. So if this is the first time that you are catching one of these videos, then my name is Taryn Hewitt. I am a work-life balance coach, and I am the organizer of this group, Work-Life Balance for Overachievers. And this is our Bright Spot video, which is a weekly video that I do every single Monday. And the initial goal was just to make Monday a bright spot in your week by offering actionable tips and ideas that you can apply immediately to your life to help improve your work-life balance and many other areas of your life. So hopefully you find it helpful. Today's topic is centered around core values. So we're going to be talking about why core values are so pivotal to work-life balance. And this is, I would say, maybe a little bit of a teaser because we have our next group event is actually coming up this coming Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern time I said Thursday already, through the Facebook Live option in the group. And so that event is actually going to be a larger event, deep diving a little bit more into this topic and focused around how you can evaluate your core values in order to kickstart work-life balance, right? So a deeper dive on this topic. But I thought this would be a good teaser for that and just a good way to kind of start talking about this concept, right? So before we dive too deep, I just want to talk really quickly about what core values actually are. So some people have heard of this before. Some people may already actively know what their core values are, or maybe you've heard that phrase. But more often than not, I think the average person that's out there may know of this concept, that may not necessarily know actively and intentionally what their core values are. And so I think that's why today's topic is so important, right? So core values, just for a basic definition, are the set of principles, behaviors, characteristics, or concepts that you believe are most important. Now, the reality is you already have a set of core values that you are already operating against. The question is whether that is conscious or subconscious, right? So for many people, including myself for a very long time, core values tend to be a little bit more subconscious. We are not always aware that we're making decisions against them, but they are there in the background, and they are influencing our lives and influencing what's in our lives, what's contributing to our stress, our relaxation, whatever is present for us, is ultimately at its root based in our values and how we have made decisions against them. So with that comes a very important statement, right? So I just want to hit on this real hard before we dive any further, which is to say, every decision you make demonstrates what you value, right? So I'm going to say that again because I think it has to sit for a second, right? Every decision you make demonstrates what you value. And that's why I say that everybody already has a set of values that they are making decisions against. It's what influences us and tells us which decision is the right decision at any moment. Um, but when they are subconscious core values, like the majority of us have, they tend to be rooted in things that are a little bit more external to us, right? So, some examples of things that may have helped shape your subconscious core values could be things like societal norms, maybe what we've been told by family, friends, or our culture should be important. It could be characteristics or behaviors that we learned as children, which may no longer serve us as adults. It could also be our belief system, whether that's a belief system we were raised in or just one that we've adapted over time. So there are a lot of things that can contribute, excuse me, a lot of things that can contribute to those subconscious core values. And the reality is, when you start to really consciously choose what core values are actually most important to you, what you'll find is that they may share some of those subconscious values, right? So some of the things that your values thus far have been rooted in may continue to be part of your value system when you are actively, consciously choosing that. But what you may also find is that your conscious values may also differ um, when you start to reflect on what's important to you as an individual, right? So, a really good, really just simple example of that, right, is maybe you were raised in a family that had a decent amount of financial security, and it was an important aspect of your family life that financial security always be present, right? So what that may have looked like is a constant reinforcement that you had to have a very specific type of job or a very specific career path or make a certain amount of money in order to ensure that financial security, right? So those things may have been constantly reinforced throughout your life. And so what you may find is that now you're making decisions for that next big promotion or like the career that's the most lucrative, even though it may not be the one that you actually want, right? So there are a lot of things where that can influence your life and influence the decisions that you're making, even if that's not personally important to you, right? And so the reality of the situation is, if you want a life that reflects your individual values, that starts with recognizing what your true personal values are and then starting to make decisions according to those. And so, if your work life balance is currently suffering, oftentimes some analysis of the situation or an analysis of what your personal, true, individualized values are will reveal some misalignment with your core values, right? And so that's why this becomes such an important topic when we're talking about work-life balance. So I have this example that I really like to think about, which is, consider if you were redecorating your home and you're looking at paint samples. And as you start to look at paint samples, your inclination is to start pulling all of these like really fun colors that you just immediately connect to. But as you're doing that, you're talking with a family member and they start recalling to mind what your family home looked like, which was very, very different and had a very different tone to it. And so maybe they start talking about that, and that would create some nostalgia. And then, in a separate conversation, you are talking to a friend, and your friend tells you that muted colors are really best for like rest and relaxation. And you think, yeah, sure, that sounds nice. And so you start to adjust your colors, based on off of hearing that suggestion. And then, maybe a realtor friend tells you that neutral colors are best, right? That's what you want for the market at any time. And so you start to pull back some of those fun colors again to replace them with some more neutral colors. And then suddenly you have yourself in your newly decorated home that's been freshly painted, and you find yourself looking around and realizing that you didn't have any colors that you actually wanted or any of the colors that you were initially drawn to, right? That's a lot of what can happen when we are activating against subconscious values rather than conscious values and conscious decision making. We can oftentimes wake up and realize that we're in careers that we didn't want, relationships that we didn't want. And it doesn't have to be that drastic, right? So I don't mean to create drama when I say that. These can be small decisions too. These can be tiny micro decisions that we're making on a regular basis, but they influence our lives, and those decisions are influenced by our values, right? Now, imagine in that home redecorating scenario, if you started over and you had trust and faith in yourself and what you genuinely wanted, and you knew exactly what it was that you were looking for and what was most important to you, and you just put all of those other conversations to the side and you just picked out every color that you absolutely fell in love with, according to your, what you wanted in your home, right? How would that redecorated home feel different, right? I mean, and if nothing else, it's going to feel more personal. You're going to have more connection to it and create more excitement just in being in it because it fits you more fully, right? And so that's kind of what we're talking about when we talk about um, consciously choosing your core values and then actively making decisions against them. So we'll talk a little bit more on Thursday about how to actually do an evaluation of your core values. But in the meantime, let's just talk for a moment about how that misalignment contributes to work-life balance challenges. So if you think about it, anytime you're not, well, let's start to move into the space of conscious versus subconscious, right? So if your subconscious values do not align with your conscious values, but those are the ones that you're making decisions against, right? Then what you're going to find is this constant presence of internal struggle. So let's use the example that we used before, where somebody may not genuinely care about financial security in the same way, or maybe they want financial security, but they're okay with a reasonable amount of money that is, enough for them to live on. But what's always been impressed upon them was this urgency to get as much money as possible, right? So that person may find themselves in this like high power, really important career that requires a lot of hours, a lot of time away from their family. And it's hitting on everything that's important for that financial value or that financial security value, right? So they're hitting that value, but that value doesn't align with them. It doesn't align with their personal goals or what they personally find to be important. And so every time they go to those extra hours of work or those extra meetings and they find themselves away from their family, it's going to create this internal strife and this internal struggle that they're constantly butting up against, right? And so that internal struggle is creating this constant revolution of stress, frustration, dissatisfaction. And you've probably heard me say this in other videos and in other posts, right? But whenever we're talking about a situation that's high in stress, it creates this environment where you're not genuinely able to focus on anything else. So it creates, to a degree, this negative ripple effect on all the other areas of your life, right? And so what we want to do at all times is figure out how to remove that internal struggle. So just like the constant internal struggle can create that negative ripple effect, the more that you're able to ease that internal struggle and get in alignment with everything that is most important to you and have your decisions, your actions, everything align, what you'll start to see is a ripple effect in the opposite direction, right? So now you will find yourself having more clarity, more mental space, more energy, more just vigor for really attack life the way that you want, to make the decisions that are important to you, to be fulfilled by your job, to spend time with your family, whatever it is that is most important. having that alignment eases everything else so that you're able to do more of what's most important. And that is always ultimately the goal when we're talking about work-life balance, right? And so when we talk about living your core values in themselves are important, but intentional core values are what is truly pivotal to having successful work-life balance. And so, if you are not sure what your values are, this is a good opportunity to just start playing, right? What I would suggest if you wanted to, I mean, our activity on Thursday, that group event, is not going to be focused so much on finding the values. It'll be focused on evaluating your values. And so, if you want to do a mini homework assignment before then, or if you just want to take this as something to do an exercise with, what you can start doing is just sit with some pen and paper and just start listing out things that you find to be most important, right? So again, this is a space of no judgment. It's a space for you to be exactly who you are and to think about genuinely what's most important to you. If you need some inspiration, it's very easy. You can do some quick Google searches that say like a values list is a really good one, and you will find tons and tons and tons of examples out there about potential values that you could consider playing with. What I find is that the words that you choose are very, very, very important. And that's probably the same as can be said in all areas of life, right? But if you find yourself, looking at a few different words that all seem to be somewhat similar, but don't quite feel right, that can be an example of how you know that you should keep playing a little bit, maybe play with the thesaurus to see if you can find different words. But the idea here is just to start honing in on things that really represent what it is that you want in your life, what you believe to be most important, and what you want to start making decisions towards for the sake of demonstrating that they are valuable to you, right? And so if you're making a values list, I recommend 4 or 5 at most. They say, if you value everything, then you really value nothing. And so this is how you really start to hone in on, hone in and ruthlessly prioritize what is truly the most important to you. Excuse me. Just got the slightest tickle. And of course, do not have any water, so I apologize. Okay. All of that being said, it is basically time. Let's see. Sorry about that. I stopped to take a pause and get some water really fast so that I could finish talking and just wrap up this last tiny bit, which is to say that if you found this to be helpful and you do want to spend a little bit more time truly deep diving and evaluating your current values, don't forget to join me this coming Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern time for our next group event. That is Thursday, February 23rd. And what we'll do is really talk about how to evaluate them and then how to think about where you're at in your life, right? So the reality is that just like our priorities may change over our lives, our values may change as well. And that's why evaluating your values becomes such an important practice to do on a regular basis so that you know that, again, you are continuing to make decisions based on what is truly most important to you. So that event will be in our group through Facebook Live. It's the first time we're doing it that way. So it should be very easy. You should be able just to click in and select the video right away directly in the group event on Facebook. If you have not RSVP'd for that event yet, just check out the featured section. It should be directly above this post and it should be very easy to click on. What that will do is if you RSVP for the event, then you will also get reminders about the event leading up to it so that you don't forget to join and catch us live, which is always the best way to join because you can ask any questions that are top of mind for you and make sure that the event is as valuable as possible for you. Okay. So if you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to drop them into the comments. You can send me a DM. In the meantime, I look forward to the event on Thursday and I hope to see you there. I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of the week. Thanks for joining me today. Bye.